Detectives are taking a closer look at new evidence in the search for Nancy Guthrie, 37 days now after she was abducted from her Catalina Foothills home. The Pima County Sheriff's Department confirms they are reviewing a damaged utility box now about a half a mile from Nancy's home. Detectives also say they're checking to see if someone used a Wi-Fi jammer to scramble security cameras in the area and are asking neighbors about internet issues from the night of January 31st into the morning of February 1st. That was the evening that Nancy Guthrie disappeared. Investigators also say they're not ruling out the person responsible may have had accomplices. Meantime, investigators continue to focus on video of that suspect you see there, captured on the Ring doorbell camera at her home, along with several other leads in the case.
North Camino Escalante, Catalina Foothills, Tucson, Arizona. Tommaso Cioni walks Nancy Guthrie to her front door. He watches her step inside. He drives away into the desert dark. 4 hours and 38 minutes later, her pacemaker goes silent. Nobody called 911 until the following morning, because nobody knew. Her daughter Savannah, NBC's face in front of millions, was preparing to fly to Milan. Her phone was still on the kitchen counter. Her car sat untouched in the driveway. Her medications, the ones managing conditions that become life-threatening without daily dosing, were exactly where she left them the night before. Nancy Guthrie did not leave. Nancy Guthrie was taken. And the man who walked her to that door, the last human being confirmed to have stood beside her on North Camino Escalante while she was still safe, drove 4 miles home into the Catalina Foothills night. 4 miles. 10 minutes. Empty desert roads. The man who drove her home that night, where was he 4 hours later? Nobody has answered that. Not yet. Here is what every major outlet missed. While the internet argued about one man and one porch, the physical evidence was already telling a different story. There are 2 DNA profiles recovered from this crime. Not one. 2 unknown males. Neither matching Nancy Guthrie. Neither matching anyone in her family. Neither matching a single profile in the FBI's database of 19 million known offenders. One profile was recovered from biological evidence inside Nancy's home on North Camino Escalante. The second came from a glove found along North Campbell Drive, less than 2 miles south of her front door. 2 people left their biology at 2 separate locations connected to the same crime. That is not a theory. That is physical evidence. Now consider the 41-minute window. The doorbell camera went dark at 1:47 a.m. Nancy's pacemaker lost its signal at 2:28 a.m. Someone was inside that house for 41 minutes. Professional burglars work in 5-minute windows. 10 is sloppy. 20 is reckless. 41 minutes means whoever was inside that house was not afraid of being caught. One person alone, locating Nancy, controlling her, moving her through a dark house, loading her into a vehicle, and managing the environment simultaneously, operates under a strain that compounds every second. Former FBI negotiator Chip Massey confirmed it directly. Controlling an elderly hostage while managing operational logistics is a load no single operator can sustain. A lone wolf makes this crime almost impossible. 2 people makes every impossible detail make sense. 1 person built the blueprint. 1 person executed it. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because what I am about to lay out has not been assembled this way anywhere else. And the evidence in this case has been circling the same 2 men for weeks. Let me show you exactly why. This did not begin on February 1st. January 11, 2026. The Pima County Sheriff flagged this date. Requested neighborhood surveillance footage from the Catalina Foothills. Never explained why publicly. That silence matters. Because 3 weeks before Nancy was taken, law enforcement was already looking at something they have not told the public about. Then January 23rd. Someone was captured on a Ring camera walking backward, 6.5 miles from Nancy's home on North Camino Escalante. You need to understand why that matters. Consumer Ring cameras run on passive infrared sensors. They do not record continuously. They sleep until body heat triggers them. The sensor fires. The processor wakes. The lens adjusts. The Wi-Fi establishes a handshake. That entire sequence takes 1 to 2 seconds. Walk toward a camera and those first seconds capture your face as you approach. Walk backward, and by the time that lens is recording, your face is already gone. Nothing but the back of a hoodie. The suspect on January 23rd was physically hacking the camera's sensor lag with his own body. And when a dog barked and he fled, he maintained his backward orientation. He suppressed the biological reflex to turn toward the sound. He would rather trip and fall than give that camera a single frame of his face. That is not opportunism. That is rehearsal. 9 days later, on February 1st, the same distinctive Ozark Trail backpack, the same reflective safety strips, appeared on Nancy's porch on North Camino Escalante. No backward walking this time. He walked directly to the camera. Tapped the lens twice. January 23rd was the test. When no police showed up the next morning, he knew he was invisible. By February 1st, he was not testing anymore. He was executing. Fox News drone footage confirmed smashed floodlights at the rear of Nancy's property. The doorbell camera covers the front entrance only. One person killing the front camera while a second simultaneously destroys rear lighting. That is not one person. That is two-point coordinated entry. Agreed upon. Pre-planned. Executed simultaneously. Now here is the pattern interrupt nobody has properly addressed. If one person made all 4 appearances, January 11th, January 23rd, the pre-execution porch visit, and February 1st, that single individual was exposed in the Catalina foothills 4 separate times across 3 weeks. For chances to be captured on camera. For chances to be recognized by a neighbor. But 2 people alternating appearances means no single individual is ever seen more than twice. Risk is cut in half. Exposure is distributed. And the technique learned at one location, how to defeat a ring camera sensor by walking backward, was successfully applied at the other. That is not coincidence. That is an information transfer between collaborators. 4 networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN, independently confirmed through separate law enforcement sources that the suspect visited North Camino Escalante on multiple occasions before the night Nancy was taken. 4 networks. 4 independent confirmations. All saying the same thing. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos called it purely speculative. 4 networks said yes. The sheriff said no. One of them is wrong. I want to be clear before we go any further. I'm not accusing anyone. What I am doing is showing you what is publicly documented, and letting you see the pattern for yourself. Tommaso Cioni, 50 years old, born in Tuscany, Italy, married to Nancy Guthrie, Nancy's eldest daughter, since 2006. AP biology teacher at Basis Oro Valley Charter School in Tucson. Bass player and vocalist. And the last confirmed person to have seen Nancy Guthrie alive. The Pima County Sheriff confirmed to the New York Times that Tommaso walked Nancy to her front door on North Camino Escalante at approximately 9:50 p.m. on January 31st. Then he drove home. 4 miles. 10 minutes. To the house he shares with Annie, 4 miles from the woman who would be gone before sunrise. Now think about what the person who planned this crime needed to know. 20 years of Friday night dinners at North Camino Escalante gives you something no surveillance operation can manufacture. It gives you muscle memory. Every room, every door, every habit, every camera position. Those cameras. Nancy's Nest system had no active cloud subscription. The cameras could detect motion and trigger alerts, but they were not recording continuous footage. The FBI had to partner with Google just to recover residual back-end data. The only people who knew those cameras were essentially props were the people who walked past them every single week and watched Nancy never pay for the recording plan. The wrought iron security gate at the front of her property showed 0 forced entry in the FBI footage. No tool marks. No prying. Either Nancy left it unlocked, entirely possible for a woman who felt safe in that home for over 40 years, or someone who stood at that exact gate at 9:50 p.m. saying goodnight made sure it would be open 4 hours later. Nancy's life-critical medications were still on the kitchen counter when her family arrived the next morning. The sheriff confirmed they managed conditions that become dangerous without daily dosing. A ransom kidnapper takes those medications. A dead hostage is worth nothing. Leaving them behind means either the kidnapper was catastrophically incompetent, or they already knew she would not need them. Then there is the timing. Nancy was taken the exact weekend Savannah Guthrie flew to Milan, Italy for NBC's coverage of the 2026 Winter Olympics. Olympic assignments are confirmed months in advance. If you wanted to target Nancy during the window when her most powerful, most resourceful family member was on the other side of the planet, who would know that schedule? Someone who heard about the Milan trip at dinner. At Basis Oro Valley, Tommaso Cioni puts on black nitrile gloves every working day of his professional life. He teaches his students how DNA transfers between surfaces. He knows what forensic technicians look for at a crime scene. And he knows what they miss. A biology teacher disposing of gloves would know one thing above everything else. Do not leave them at the scene. Leave them miles away. Somewhere nobody thinks to look. Someone found one anyway. On North Campbell Drive. 2 miles from Nancy's home. DNA from an unknown male inside it. Not in Cody's. Tommaso Cioni has no criminal record. His DNA has never been submitted to Cody's. If that glove was his, the result would look exactly the way it looks right now. Unknown. No match. But here is what changes everything. For weeks, one argument dominated the online debate. The FBI described the suspect on Nancy's porch as male, 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches average build. Commentators insisted Tommaso Cioni was 6 feet tall. Too tall. Cannot be him. That height gap became the most powerful argument against Tommaso, and the argument that cracked the door open to a second person entirely. Dominic Aaron Lee Evans. 48 years old. Elementary school teacher. Drummer. And Tommaso Cioni's bandmate since 2007. 19 years. Their partnership began through a classified ad in the Tucson Weekly. Evans found guitarist Walter Goncalves Jr. through Craigslist. Tommaso responded to a listing. 3 men. 1 band. They called themselves Early Black. They recorded their debut album at Loveland Studios in Tucson in 2009. They named it Life, Love, Love, Murder. 4 words chosen deliberately by 3 men to represent their collective artistic vision. 2 of those words are love. 1 is murder. Album titles are not evidence, but they are windows into the people who choose them. Now look at Evans against the FBI description. Height, approximately 5 feet 9 inches. Build, average. Facial hair, photographed publicly with a mustache and goatee matching the description exactly. And in performance footage from Early Black, online investigators identified a marking on his right wrist consistent with what former FBI profiler Jim Clemente observed in the porch footage. Every single data point in the FBI's suspect description maps onto Dominic Evans. Evans has felony records in Pima County. Burglary, robbery, embezzlement. These are not allegations. These are entries in the Pima County Judicial Database. Burglary is unlawful entry into a structure with intent to commit a crime. Robbery is taking property from a person by force. The skill set documented in those records overlaps precisely with what happened inside Nancy Guthrie's home on February 1st. And here is the forensic detail that almost nobody has connected properly. Neither DNA profile from this crime matched anyone in Cody's, the FBI's database of 19 million offender profiles. For a stranger, a no match simply means no prior qualifying arrest. But for someone with felony convictions in Pima County, that absence demands explanation. Arizona's DNA collection laws have changed over time. If Evans' convictions predate mandatory collection protocols for his specific offense categories, or if his case is resolved through plea agreements that did not trigger DNA submission, he could carry multiple felony entries in the court system while remaining completely invisible to Cody's. A criminal record, and no DNA in the database. That combination is the forensic equivalent of a ghost. If you have not subscribed yet, do it right now and turn on notifications. Because what comes next is the detail that has not been properly connected anywhere else. Evans told the New York Times he met Nancy Guthrie once, at an Easter egg hunt at her home in 2011. He said he learned about her disappearance from Instagram and messaged Tommaso privately to offer support. A friend reaching out in crisis. Or the first communication in a post-operational protocol, a status check disguised as sympathy. The question is not whether the message was sent. Evans volunteered that detail himself. The question is what investigators found when they examined the metadata. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos cleared the family. All siblings. All spouses. Evans is not a sibling. He is not a spouse. He is a bandmate. The sheriff did not clear Dominic Evans. 40 minutes. That is how long Evans says he spoke to investigators. 40 minutes is a preliminary interview, not a forensic deep dive. And the fact that they have not called him back could mean one of two things. They moved on. Or they no longer need him to cooperate, because the evidence they are building does not require anyone to sit in a room and answer questions. Now here is what nobody has asked properly. Look at what the suspect was wearing on Nancy's porch on North Camino Escalante. A $20 Ozark Trail backpack from Walmart, with reflective safety strips that glow under infrared like a lit beacon. A cheap ski mask. A belly band holster strapped over a thick jacket in entirely the wrong position. Firearms expert John Correa was direct. No one with a single day of tactical training wears a holster configured that way. Total cost of everything on that body, approximately $70. Defenders of Tommaso Cioni love this detail. They say he is too intelligent to look that incompetent. An AP biology teacher who understands forensic science, who knows how DNA transfers, who teaches PCR amplification, would never assemble a crime kit from the clearance aisle. But flip that argument completely. If the suspect arrives in professional gear, night vision, signal jammer, suppressed weapon, FBI profilers build a specific template. Educated, disciplined, trained. That profile narrows fast. It points directly at people like science teachers. But if the worst possible kit is deliberately assembled, the cheapest backpack, the wrong holster, the reflective strips that should have been cut off before leaving the house, profilers describe something else entirely. Disorganized, impulsive, amateur. And they stopped looking at the methodical educator living 4 miles away in Oro Valley. That is not stupidity. That is a costume. Now here is the detail that may break this case open entirely. Elias and Danielle Strategilius live on Camino Royale, a quiet residential back road 2.5 miles from Nancy's home. It avoids every major intersection between the Catalina foothills and the arterial routes out of Tucson. The kind of road someone leaving a crime scene at 2:30 in the morning selects instinctively. Their Ring camera recorded 12 vehicles passing between midnight and 6 a.m. on February 1st. One appeared at 2:36 a.m. Nancy's pacemaker disconnected at 2:28 a.m. NBC correspondent Liz Kreutz drove the route herself, from North Camino Escalante to the Strategilius camera. 6 minutes exactly. That puts the vehicle leaving Nancy Street at approximately 2:30, 2 minutes of margin. Exactly the margin you would expect from a driver who paused at the end of the street, checked the mirrors, removed a mask, confirmed the road was clear, then accelerated onto Camino Royale. Retired NYPD Detective Pat Broen assessed the vehicle as a Kia Soul. The sheriff confirmed to NBC the timing matches the abduction window. The vehicle is part of the active investigation. One person built the blueprint. One person executed it. Both left evidence the FBI is still processing. But here is the question the FBI has not answered publicly. Which direction was that Kia Soul heading? South on Interstate 19 toward Rio Rico, 60 miles from the Mexican border, where Evans has a reported property. West toward Tucson, Marana, where Evans lives. Or north toward Oro Valley, where Tommaso Cioni teaches AP biology at Basis Oro Valley every single day. Each direction tells a completely different story. Each story points at a different person. The FBI has the footage. The FBI knows which direction. They have not said. March 2, 2026. 1 month to the day. Yellow flowers. Handwritten cards. A memorial growing outside Nancy's home on North Camino Escalante. Savannah Guthrie walked to it arm in arm with her sister Annie and Annie's husband Tommaso Cioni. Cameras rolling. The internet watching. For the entire month before that walk, every member of the Guthrie family had been screaming into the void. Savannah posted emotional videos begging the public for information. She offered $1 million of her own family's money. She stood in front of cameras and said the words no daughter should ever have to say out loud, Every hour has been agony. Cameron Guthrie recorded a direct video addressed to the kidnapper. Annie cooperated fully with investigators from day one. And Tommaso Cioni said nothing. Not one statement. Not one video. Not one interview. Not one appearance beside his wife while she broke down publicly asking the world to find her mother. Reporter Brian Anton told Megyn Kelly that Tommaso had not been seen in almost a week. Big beard. Very recognizable. Gone. If your mother-in-law is missing, the woman who welcomed you into her family for 20 years, who fed you at her home on North Camino Escalante every Friday night, and the entire country is searching for her and your wife is falling apart publicly, you talk. You beg. You go on every camera you can find and you say, I love that woman and I want her found. That is what innocent people do. The grief is too big to contain. It spills out of them whether they want it to or not. Silence is a choice. And it is the choice people make when their lawyer tells them every word is a potential exhibit at trial. He finally appeared on March 2nd, 1 month after Nancy was taken. No statement. No interview. No plea to the public. Just a carefully staged walk to a memorial on the 1-month anniversary, with the cameras rolling and the world watching. Body language experts who reviewed the FBI footage had a specific term for how the suspect moved through Nancy's porch. They called it ownership behavior. He did not search for the camera. He walked directly to it. Did not hesitate at the door. Reached out and tapped the lens twice. Casual. Rhythmic. Like someone checking a piece of furniture they walk past every single day. 20 years of Friday night dinners on North Camino Escalante. Encoded into muscle memory. 9:50 p.m. January 31st. North Camino Escalante. A man walks an 84-year-old woman to her front door. Watches her go inside. Drives away into the dark. The man who drove her home that night. The evidence is closing in on an answer. The DNA from inside Nancy's home and from the glove on North Campbell Drive is processing right now at a private lab in Florida. 2 profiles. 2 family trees. 2 independent chances for a genealogy database hit. The math is collapsing. The ransom was never real. $6 million in Bitcoin. Surgical insider precise. A stranger demands $50 million because strangers dream big. An insider lands on 6 because an insider has been sitting at that dinner table for 20 years listening to conversations about money. The FBI sent a small amount to the wallet as a trap. 0 activity. Dead since the moment it was created. The ransom was a prop, designed to push investigators toward a financial motive while the real motive sat undisturbed 4 miles away. One of the ransom communications used a specific phrase, the main individual. That is hierarchy language. The word main has no meaning without subordinates beneath it. 2 words that leaked the entire structure of the operation. Now the fracture point. Whatever bond held these 2 men together, 19 years of rehearsals at Loveland Studios in Tucson, shared stages, shared silences, was built for music. Not for this. The architect knows the operative can end him with 1 phone call. The operative knows the architect will deny everything and let him take the fall alone. Neither one trusts the other completely. Neither one can. Someone in Tucson knows. A neighbor in the Catalina foothills. A student at Basis Oro Valley. A colleague who saw something that did not make sense at the time. A late-night drive. A whispered conversation. A purchase that felt wrong. That person is watching this right now. Call the FBI tip line. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Savannah Guthrie's family has offered a $1 million reward. It can be paid in cash. Tips can be submitted completely anonymously. Bring Nancy home. If this video opened your eyes to something the mainstream coverage missed, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Every update on this case comes here first. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think after everything you just saw. And share this video, because somewhere out there, the person who needs to see it has not seen it yet. The DNA does not need anyone to confess. The cell towers do not need anyone to cooperate. The evidence is processing. And whoever left their biology inside that house and inside that glove is running out of time.